Welcome to On the Firing Line on the information station, AM 1440 KUHL. Information, education, news, and politics of firearms and ammunition is found here. If you have any questions, call us at 1-888-625-1440. That's 1-888-625-1440.
A man was asleep at home with his wife and child in a Kansas City, Missouri home when the family was awakened by a suspicious noise. The man retrieved a shotgun, went to investigate, and discovered a burglar who had broken into the home's garage. The homeowner fired at the intruder, killing him. The shooting ended a lengthy crime spree by the burglar that included 3 car thefts, 1 carjacking at gunpoint, and another burglary. This out of KCTV of Kansas City, Missouri. And you are on the firing line with Matt and Jim today. Be a part of today's show by giving us a call at 1-888-625-1440. Or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440. Joe is not with us today. He is down in Los Angeles enjoying some family time. Which is
he deserves a day off.
I was going to say a day off is well deserved for that man. And so it's just me and Jim here today. We're going to hack away at the old on the firing line.
Yeah, we'll be hacking away. This is crazy. It almost sounds like this guy had a death wish. I don't know, Matt.
Totally.
This just happened the other day too. This is September 5th this year.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just happened.
Yeah, it's a fresh. It's
wild.
It's always nice to have the fresh report, Second Amendment encounters. It's just, it helps prove to you guys out there that this stuff happens on a daily basis. Not everything we read is from 5 years ago, This just happened a couple days ago, like Jim said.
Yeah, and not only that, had three car thefts?
Yeah, so obviously this guy was kind of on a...
hijacking at gunpoint?
Yeah, he was obviously not a good guy to have around. He was up to some pretty nefarious things, and... it just happened to be that this was the final straw for this guy. Yeah, exactly. His luck ran out. He went into a house where they had said, "Hey, we're going to protect our family," and that's exactly what happened. That family was protected, and other than that, I don't really care what happened as long as the innocent family was protected.
Yes, amen. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you wonder what happened with some of the other people too, with the hijacking at gunpoint and everything else.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, it doesn't talk about that, and even if they didn't get injured or something, getting hijacked at gunpoint, I mean, that's a huge deal emotionally. You're obviously going to have to go deal with that for quite some time, unless you're John Rambo. But I
only
guess
in the movies.
Yes, only in the movies. So anyway, today we're going to kind of discuss a few different topics, mainly training and practice. Also, the difference between training and practice.
There's a difference?
There is. Yes, I'll tell you all about that.
Oh, good. I'm excited.
Perspectives of owning a firearm. Owning a firearm isn't enough. Getting training isn't necessarily enough. I want to go into that a little bit. Gunfighting is a skill that requires more training, not more information. Meaning the internet will not necessarily help you prevail in a gunfight whatsoever. You can read all the things you want, but until you go out there and put yourself through it, you will never know. You're not. It's going to be a wholly unreal thing to you until you actually somewhat feel it out for yourself.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Dirty Harry movies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think it's number 2. It's Magnum Force, which one it was.
Magnum Force.
Yeah, where they're going through that thing and they're learning, or not learning. It's more of a contest.
Okay.
Where he meets the other David Soul and those guys. Yeah, Tim Matheson and stuff like that, and he goes against them.
Yeah, they all shoot against each other. Yeah.
Is that more of a training, or is that more of a practice, or what?
That would be practice, kind of. Well, the way I break it down, training is how you learn how to practice. When you go to a class to get training, what the instructors are ultimately teaching you is how to go home and practice. So you get the training. That's kind of like a down payment on the car. You've made the down payment. You paid for the training class. You did the initial 3 days or whatever. Mm-hmm. Now you got to continue to make payments on the car. Otherwise, the skills get repossessed. So if you don't go out and practice what you trained once a week or so,
I see.
then those skills will start diminishing. So practicing and training,
Right.
Training is teaching you how to practice.
There you go.
So
yeah.
that's kind of the difference of it. But, you can use both words in the same sense, I guess. I'm going to go out and practice, or I'm going to go train. And it'll essentially mean the same thing. But there is that other way of looking at it.
Well, if you play any sports, there's the instruction, and then there's the practice, and then there's the actual game.
Exactly.
So you're instructed how to do it. Then you practice what you learned, and then you go in the
actually
game. You actually do it.
Yeah,
right.
So
Okay.
exactly, same idea of that is the practice is teaching them how to play the game.
There you go.
And in this is the game of life, and so we're practicing how to survive, and hopefully when that time comes, we'll survive.
There you go.
So that's basically the main difference between training and practice. But I'm sure we're going to find out some more differences. So this is called the article entitled "The First Gun Phenomena: Training and Practice." All right. With tens of thousands of first-time gun owners having purchased a firearm in the last 30 to 45 days, I'm going to go ahead and change that and say in the last 9 to 10 months to a year, we have a situation where there is a plethora, good word, a plethora of gun owners, but not trained shooters. And that is definitely for sure. If you own a gun, and even if you go and shoot holes in paper, that's good, but it doesn't make you a trained shooter. The first step in that is addressing the situation, is to congratulate them for taking the very first step, which would be buying the weapon, buying the hardware. So, just like anything else, you buy the hardware first, you buy the computer, and then you learn how to use it. The next step, to get the software or the education and the experience and the know-how, that's going to come from either getting the training, going to a training course, and it's also going to come with just going out there and doing it, getting involved, making it a convenience, or even if it is an inconvenience for you to go out and practice and shoot, you still do it no matter what. It's just like people who have who want lift weights and stuff, and it might be inconvenient for them that day to go lift weights, but they stick to their regiment and they do it anyway.
Very good point.
Same idea. Excuse me. So after the education, the experience, and it goes, no one is born a good shooter, even though most of us guys think we are, but no one is born a good shooter. There are definitely natural athletes, but using a firearm effectively takes both mental and physical skill, and I will say that is about a 90% mental game. You don't realize that until you've taken training. At least for me, I didn't. I thought it was, I have the skill. I can put a bullet in where I generally want it to go. But it's how you think about it, which is kind of the road that gets you there.
It's kind of like I've heard the phenomenon buck fever.
Yeah.
You got them in your sights, but you just can't pull the trigger.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But, and then if you have that training, you'll know how to inoculate that stress, and then you'll be able to pull that trigger. And obviously, if it's not a buck, and if it's a guy coming at you with a bat, knife, or a gun, being able to pull the trigger quicker is going to behoove you, largely. So basically, no one's born to. When you come out, you're not born a great shooter. Everybody, even Jerry Micklick, who's probably one of the best natural shooters out there, he has practiced every day. He will still tell you he's always practicing. He says he's practiced with over 1 million rounds.
Wow!
And this is a guy who can shoot a revolver faster than most people can shoot anything, a machine gun even. I mean,
wow!
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Training. Although the two words are often used interchangeably, which is training and practice, when it comes to firearm training and practice are not the same. Training is something you do under the watchful eye of a competent instructor. From a practical standpoint, you cannot train yourself. This is true. Only an experienced instructor can point out the areas you need to improve and reinforce the areas you've mastered. Let's be honest, if you're quote-unquote training yourself, you're not going to be very critical of yourself.
Yeah,
and that's where you become better, is having somebody who knows things you don't be critical of you in a polite way, but being critical enough to let you understand, and every time you make that mistake, you think of that criticism. And that criticism is a positive thing to have in the back of your mind. Anyway, that's the way I would think of it. So you can't train yourself. Only experienced instructor can actually train you. Practice. Practice as opposed to training is something you can and should do on your own. I will add, when you practice, it's always good to have a partner with you or a friend. strength in numbers, especially, if somebody gets hurt. And also with that, always have a safety plan. Know what to do if somebody gets hurt. Don't panic. Have a very specific set of what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to call 911. You're going to get in the car and drive to the hospital if you're in a weird area or something. But just have a little bit of planning before, so if something bad happens, it's not a total surprise and you got to figure it out right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like having a medical kit with you.
There you go.
Always be prepared. So, something you should do on your own or with friends. After you have attended training, you should be able to identify your strong and weak areas. We practice so as to maintain a level of skill and to improve in certain areas. For instance, you may have discovered during training that your first shot on target is often low and left. Your instructor explained and demonstrated a proper trigger press and front sight focus. You understand what you need to do. Now you need to go and be consistent and apply those practices consistently. Consistency is the name of the game. It takes about 1,000 repetitions of any given movement to actually get that repetition down and own the skill. And so that's what we want to do, is own as many skills as we can. We call it, our brain, I like to call it a toolbox. Everything I learn, I like to put in my toolbox. Some things go up in the higher levels of the box. Some stuff stays down low. So the more important stuff goes in the top drawer, the stuff that you use all the time.
All the time, yeah, right.
The
exactly.
hammer and the screwdriver, those goes in the top drawer. The stuff that you don't use much, go a little bit lower. So apply that to your firearm training, and you will see what I'm talking about. Genuine confidence. An often overlooked aspect of training and practice is the development of a genuine confidence in one's own abilities. You cannot trick the mind or body. If you don't have skill with a firearm, you cannot simply will yourself to have it. After you've experienced professional training class, or 2, or 3, or 4, you will have a very real and genuine understanding of your abilities.
There you go.
And that's true. You can, if you go out and you, like they were saying, do it yourself, you'll start realizing, okay, I need to practice this more or this less, or I don't think you should do anything less, but focus on stuff more. But you're going to realize what counts more if you get the practice, or the training, excuse me. They're going to tell you what you should spend the time on, and it's usually going to be good input.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to tell you to spend time sipping coffee. That doesn't help anything. So genuine confidence, if you got to have confidence to be a good shooter, and that also falls back onto the mindset of I'm going to win. We've all had, from sports teams to just defensive mindset. Victory is what's on your mind. If that's what's on your mind, that's probably going to be your result. So always be thinking victory, guys. All right. A little bit more about this stuff here. Skill with a firearm is like any other physical skill. It is perishable. Not pre-perishable. Just
perishable.
Just perishable, not pre-perishable. So your skills are perishable. That's kind of like what I was just saying about making your down payments on a car, and then you got to keep making payments by training and practicing so those skills don't perish. If you do not train and practice regularly, you will lose the skill. Using a firearm for personal defense is serious business. If the time ever comes to defend your life with a gun, you will not have time to warm up or practice or anything like that. The time is going to be right here, right now. That's your warm up. That's your practice. Mm-hmm. That one shot or that 3-second time, that's what you have. If you are stumped as to where to find professional training, you can always ask a clerk where you bought your firearm. Usually they have at least some knowledge on training facilities. Whether it's local or somewhere you have to travel to, usually they have good input. So when you buy a gun, go ahead and ask them, hey, where can I get some training? And they hopefully can point you in the right direction. They should be able to recommend some locally. Better yet, if they have a trusted friend who has taken training, ask them. If not, the internet is full of information. Jump on and do your research. Just like everything else with the internet, take it with a grain of salt at first until you are 100% you're reading the correct website for the correct training. You don't want to just start going off about something and then realize that it was somebody else's review of the class.
Yeah, there you go.
You're like, oh man, I shouldn't have even read that. So, just remember, training and practice are different. You have to get the training to be able to practice. With that said, we're going to take a quick break on the firing line with Matt and Jim.
You're listening to On the Firing Line on the Information Station.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We'll be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building the AR-15, lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies are in stock, as well as a large selection of handguns, tactical shotguns, and bolt-action precision rifles.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes.
Located just off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit, look for the big rifle sign on the freeway, as well as the giant 5-ton tactical military truck. Support your Second Amendment rights and visit Tactical Guns and Gear today.
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
Now a great word from Santa Maria Motorcycles, formerly Santa Maria Harley-Davidson, located at 2022 Presker Lane. They are dealers for Honda, Kawasaki, and Harley-Davidson. Grab your family and go see the museum, filled with exciting older bikes that you won't see anywhere else on the Central Coast. As well, they are the #1 motorcycle dealer on the Central Coast with the largest inventory around. Go in and see Martin Buchanan, or you can give him a call at 805-928-3668. You can also go visit them every first Thursday of the month for Bike Night. Starts at 6 p.m. Have a great time with your family at Santa Maria Motorcycles.
You are on the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, please give us a call at 928-1440. That's right. We're back on the Firing Line. We're talking a little bit today about training and practice and owning firearms, not getting trained, and being irresponsible and all that stuff. And, I'm going to get into another article, but just to parting words from, training, practicing, going out and doing it. Amateurs train until they get it right. Professionals train until they cannot get it wrong.
Ooh.
So think of it like that. Boom, that just happened. All right. Perspectives on owning a firearm isn't enough. Get trained. Written by Brian Hyde, December 27th, 2012. Political and economic uncertainty continue to spur a frenzy of firearms and ammunition buying throughout the U.S. You think? Gun owners looking to beef up their collections are making many of these purchases, but there are also a lot of people becoming firearm owners for the very first time. Contrary to the historics of statistics who believe... Jim?
Yes.
Contrary to the... What's that word? Histrionic of statistics? I don't know what that word is, but anyway. According to people who believe that only the government can be trusted with arms, this is not an ominous development in and of itself. It does, however, highlight what for many firearms owners is an important chance to consider the importance of becoming properly trained in the use of their weapons. Too many gun owners are willing to plunk down upwards of $1,000 on a particular firearm and ammunition, but they're unwilling to invest a dime in quality training and on the use of their firearm. Quality training in the sense doesn't mean a concealed weapons class or an NRA safety course. These types of courses have their place and they are good for basic fundamentals, but I am referring to the kind of defensive training that develops basic marksmanship, gun handling skills, and mindset necessary to prevail in a life-threatening encounter.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah,
it's important to get that across to people that, even though it's histrionics.
Thank you.
I didn't want to butt in there. You were working away at it, or so, but a little levity here. But the truth of it is that basically what they're trying to say is get it built into you.
Right, yeah.
It's part of your DNA. It's part of who you are. And then when you come to a threatening situation, you're not reacting out, I hope I do this right. You're reacting automatically.
You're going to do it right. Yeah, it's...
knee flex.
It's like the Karate Kid, paint the fence, wax on, wax off. That's
right.
how it becomes. And that literally is how I felt when I've taken some classes. You do something so many times and you have these instructors telling you, and by the end of it, you didn't even think about stuff that you had to think real hard about when you got there.
Well, it goes with anything. Have you ever played golf, Matt?
Yeah, I've tried.
Well, I've played it for many years, and as a matter of fact, I even tried to hit some balls today, and I went back to my old swing. I still remembered it. I mean,
Okay.
I've changed my swing a few times, but the muscle memory of my old
It's
swing
still
came
there.
back.
Yep.
And I just started hitting it that way today because my leg was starting to bother me.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so that
Yeah, same difference, exactly.
right.
It's
I
just-
learned that years ago, but I did it so many times.
That
I
is-
mean,
yeah.
thousands of times
Yep.
that it
But
came
it's-
back.
Yeah, it's there. Your muscles know it, and once you start doing it again, it's kind of like an old friend. It's like, oh, I
Exactly.
remember this.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
this mechanical feeling feels right.
Yeah, right. This mechanical feeling. This is the one that used to. Yeah, that's the same way you want them to be when they're trained. This
Yep.
not mechanically
Not-
like that, but just
yeah,
reactionary.
reaction-
What they're going to do right, not what they're going to do wrong.
Exactly, and it is not the quickest. On that note, it's not necessarily the best shot or the best gunman who wins the fight. It's all the little mistakes you don't make
Right.
that make you win the
You know,
fight.
there's a scene in a movie one time where that's exactly what they say. It's not the gunfighter. It's the guy who just doesn't make the mistake.
Right, and that's
know?
pretty true. I mean, because you can have two equally trained guys,
Two good guys and fast.
Yeah, but the guy who is misses the magazine when on the reload is the guy that's probably not going to
Can't pull it out of his holster just quick enough. It gets attached to a thread or something.
Yeah, that's all. That's all it really takes.
Yeah, I think so.
So if that does happen, just drive on. Try anyway.
Anyway.
So anyway, that's most gun owners know they need training, but they don't really want to admit it. But they know they need it. But the cost, the time commitment, or the prospect of their own poor performance on the training range is reason enough for them not to go. I've actually, people have said it. Well, I have to practice to go get training, and it's kind of like, well, before you go to get training, you should almost take a break from shooting for a couple weeks, because when you get there, you want to learn as much as you can, not pay the instructors to, show them how you shoot.
There you go. That's a really, really good point. That's an excellent point. When I was coaching Little League, it was like that. Well, look how much I have been doing this. And you say, yeah, but you're not doing it correctly now.
Yeah, exactly.
The little kids really want to show you what they know.
Yep.
And instead you go, okay, now I want you to not do that, and I want you to do this now.
Exactly.
And once they get that better.
Right. And it's the same, little kids or grown men, we're all
the same.
It's all the same, because all grown men think we can shoot a gun because we're a man,
Yeah, well, Joe was telling me one time that he gets a lot of women signing up for the women's night or whatever it's called. And I guess women aren't ashamed of learning, maybe.
No, I mean, 100% it is easier to teach a female how to shoot, and 100% of the time they get better results.
There you go.
And that's just...
They just consider it, okay, it's all right, I can be trained.
They can listen better. They're not trying to one-up the instructor. They're not sitting there with their chest stuck out like, I already know this. They're soaking it up. They're taking notes. They just learn. They listen better, I guess.
Sure.
So, let's see. Such training is only the beginning of true competence and requires a few minutes of dry practice without ammo every day, several times a week, to perfect and maintain one's skill at arms. And that's something I do. I don't call it dry fire. I do call it dry practice. Dry fire seems like a counterintuitive word. It might confuse a new shooter. Well, how is it a dry fire? Well, if you say dry practice, they get that.
Good point.
And that's basically just practicing the trigger press and your sight alignment, and like Jim said, drawing from the holster, getting all that stuff down, getting a little quicker, getting a little better. Next time you go to the range with live ammo, you'll be a little bit quicker, a little bit better every time. So, doing that's the best way and the cheapest way to practice, is to do the dry practice at your house, because you don't need any ammo to do it. You don't need to buy targets. You don't have to drive to a range. You just need to pick out a room in your house, take all the ammo out of it, and practice. So, you know, I don't really want to hear the excuse that I can't afford to practice, because, yeah, you can. If you own a gun, you can afford to practice. All right. Let's talk about, good training courses will incorporate teaching full legal, moral, and ethical costs that follow even most justifiable use of lethal force. Many courses also emphasize the color codes of awareness that teaches situational awareness required to recognize and avoid likely threats before they become your problem. That refers me to Jeff Cooper. He's the guy that started the whole color code, as far as your mind being, like orange is if you see something, yellow is where we all are all the time. It's kind of being very aware, but not being paranoid, but being aware. Mm-hmm. Orange is if you do see something and, you think that's a threat, you might need to shine a flashlight on it, or at least keep your attention over towards it, in case that orange turns into a red threat, meaning
there you go,
violent.
Well, you know what? You know why they created the yellow light, don't you? You know the guy in the traffic light. It was just a warning that red is coming. Because it used to be in the 40s.
You would just have to slam your brakes on and go through.
It was go and stop, and they said, hey, guess what? We got to create something that. Yeah. That's why if you go through a yellow light, you don't get a ticket because it's
not a red light.
It's not red. Yeah. Right, exactly. So that same aspect, they use the same aspect there.
Yeah, it's still a color code awareness system.
It's a color code awareness to let you know something else is happening.
Yeah. That's definitely sure.
We are just programmed that way.
Oh, man, we're programmed bad. All right. One key benefit that's unique to this type of training is that students quickly discover that the most important weapon they're learning to use is between their ears.
That right is about so that. True. Absolutely right.
They also come to realize that the firearm and gear they employ are merely tools. They're inanimate objects. When you're training, the gear is the last thing. It goes firearms, skill, tactics, gear. Mindset, skill, tactics, gear. So gear should be the last of it, mindset being the first. Your skills and your tactics, those are in the middle. Skills should be higher than your tactics. Even though some tactics are skills and some skills are tactics. I understand that. Anyway, proper training is about developing the shooter and not just having the coolest guns, doodads, or gadgets, or to look impressive. It's not about, the tactical bling. A lot of people come to gun classes kind of like they're just there to show off my $2,000 pistol or look at my expensive rifle and all the cool stuff on it. Well, that's great. It's real nice, but can you use it the way all that stuff is supposed to be used? I hope so, and that's hopefully why you're getting training. So basically, if you go to a training class, just show up with what you need. Don't show up with all kinds of stuff to impress the other guys. Chances are they're not going to be impressed because they have it too, So just show up and do your best to keep your head in the game.
Absolutely. It's serious business.
And it is, and it's easy to, going out and getting rudimentary training at the very most, or at the very least, I should say, is not a hard thing to do. Anybody listening to this, they know that they can come in to Tactical Guns and Gear and get training. There are multiple outlets for training. And that, again, I stress doesn't just mean you going to the range and shooting. It means somebody over your shoulder teaching you how to shoot.
There you go.
So, it does help. The greatest amount of ignorance regarding the role of firearms in our society almost always seems to emanate from those who have never had proper training in the defensive use of a firearm. In most cases, these folks simply don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. Imagine that. They parrot what they've seen in the movies or TV shows, or they regurgitate sound bites from equally uninformed news commentators. And that's true. I've heard so much of the regurgitation stuff that is untrue and false, and usually I know the source of it or something. And, I'm regurgitating some stuff.
Yeah, we all do that.
All the time, yeah. But, at least I try to regurgitate the positive stuff.
Absolutely.
Once exposed to quality training, it is amazing how their tune changes to one of the neutrality. It is not outright support to keep and bear arms. Those contemplating spending a bundle on firearms and ammo should consider factoring in training as part of the essential equation. Shoot a weekend's worth of ammo in training and it's gone, but the training will stay with you for life. It'll stay with you for life as long as you make those down payments.
That's right.
Again, so, and that's true. I mean, it is expensive to do like a 2 or 3 day shooting class where, every day you're meeting up at a range and you're shooting maybe 1,000 or 1,500 rounds. Yeah, it can be expensive, but you factor that in as into the whole aspect of you being able to defend your life. And I think $1,000 is worth the knowledge of being able to defend your life or others, especially your family. And most of these places don't just teach you how to take a life; they teach you other things too. So think about that for a minute, and we'll be back on the firing line with Matt and Jim.
We'll be back to more of On the Firing Line with Joe and Jim after this.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We will be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifle, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building the AR-15, lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies are in stock, as well as a large selection of handguns, tactical shotguns, and bolt-action precision rifles.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes.
Located just off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit, look for the big rifle sign on the freeway, as well as the giant 5-ton tactical military truck. Support your Second Amendment rights and visit Tactical Guns and Gear today.
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
You are on the firing line with Matt, Jim, and Joe today.
Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440. Or if you're in the Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440.
And of course, don't forget to check us out on Facebook on the Firing Line with Matt and Joe.
That's right. You are back on the firing line. And you can also check us out on am1440.com and click the Listen Now button. And do that at 4:05 every Saturday.
Absolutely.
Gunfighting is a skill that requires more training, not more information. So basically what I am saying, but without reading this real quick, is training is what it requires, not more internet warrior training. So,
Does it help you, though? I was thinking about that a little bit. Those gamers and stuff like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Just checking. I wasn't,
It might help you recognize what gun is what, because they do use realistic ones, but as far as realistic help, no.
I haven't done any of those games in probably 15 years, but they used to have one called Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein 3D. That was like the best one. I had that.
Yeah,
that was like one of the first ones ever.
It was a DOS game or something. You had to use DOS keys to get into it. Yeah. But I was just wondering, because I know that what it did for me was it was a little too. But I've seen some of the new graphic ones.
Right.
I've seen the one that's called...
the Call of Duty.
Yeah, the Auto Theft.
Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, man.
I haven't...
Whoa, that's rated X.
Yeah, I haven't played that game in a while, but even the ones that were coming out 5 years ago, it was like,
But they looked like they had real guns and stuff when they would...
Yeah, I mean, that's just...
They look real.
I mean, it's definitely real. The guns and stuff that they're using in there, they're not making stuff up. But
no, of course not. They look real. They shoot real things, and it looks like,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a simulation, I guess, of some sorts. But, not the way to practice.
So don't do it. Yeah.
Don't log on to Modern Warfare and tell yourself you're training. Please don't do that.
What's Modern Warfare?
That's just one of the games that we're talking. I don't know. That's a broad spectrum. Don't log on to any game and think you're practicing your training.
Yeah, there's the key.
I will physically come and do something. So anyway, gunfighting is a skill that requires more training, not more information. This is by Chris Sanjong, and here we go. As a retired Navy SEAL and director of training at Center Mass Group, I've been around firearms for most of my life. During that time, I've seen lots of new shooting techniques come and go, some good, some not so well. One thing that's never changed is what it takes to be a great gunfighter: hands-on training. That's what it takes, folks, hands-on training. Whenever people ask me how they can shoot like a Navy SEAL, I always say the same thing: dry fire. Lots and lots of dry fire. That means dry practice, folks. Lots and lots of dry practice. I never mention a particular technique or any other well-known fundamentals of marksmanship. Nope. What you need to do is train. Surely there are plenty of little tricks out there that I'm always going to acquire, and new tools for my toolbox. Haha, there it is. Actually, not to brag, but I've got more than a toolbox. I've got a tool shed.
Okay, Chris, don't brag.
Yeah, that wasn't my words, folks. But I have a tool house. But no matter what skill or technique I'm working on, I'm working. Okay, you guys understand that? And that's how you should approach it. If you're at the range and you're working on a skill and technique, immerse your mind into it. So that is what you are doing. If you're sweating and you're concentrating that much, that's all the better, because that's going to inoculate a little bit of stress, and a little bit of stress is good because that way you won't experience for the first time. You want to have that feeling at least once before you're in a gunfight, I would hope. So where are we leaving off? I'm finding many are no longer willing to put in the hard work necessary to earn the art of warfare and self-preservation, since it would be much easier to just buy the latest training book or video. All they need to do this is kick back on the couch with a few cold ones, and boom, you're trained up. I can rent a DVD. I can watch it on my couch, and there are DVDs out there. There's some, like Magpul. They make some really good instructional video, and they can give you the how-to and why for, all day long. But it's still not hands-on training. It's not going there. You're not being with the real people, so they're not there. Even though you can see them do everything right, they're not there to see you do everything wrong. So that's where the true corrections are made, is when you're getting things wrong. And speaking of getting things wrong, don't get me wrong. I've got no beef with getting more information or learning how to do something through a shooting book or video, and there are some great ones out there. That's just like I was saying, the Magpul videos, Viking Tactic videos, the Jaeger videos, all those have great informations in them, but they are not by any means a training tool. They're basically just fun to watch and something cool to turn on your TV. Mm-hmm. It just happens to be they're talking about training. Excuse me. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to...
Of course, this new training trend is not exclusive to firearm training.
Yeah, but I wanted to read the smoke wagon line, but anyway.
Well, it says, don't you sit there like a wallflower.
Yeah, don't just sit there like a wallflower, skin the smoke wagon, and do a ballet with the boomstick.
Okay.
Hey, I get it. So, generally what people will say for training, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to train. I don't have time to do dry practice at my house for 10 minutes a night. I'm busy. I go to work. I got kids to feed. We all do. We all understand this. Of course, this new non-training trend is not exclusive to firearms training. I became a CrossFit instructor a few years back, and ever since, I have friends and family asking me to put together workout routines for them. It usually goes something like this. Hey, Chris, I'd like to have a good workout routine and was hoping you could design a 2 to 6 day a week hardcore program for me. Are you working out now at all? I will ask them. No, I've been pretty busy. Okay, I'll make you a deal. If you work out for 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week, for 1 month, I'll design you a custom program. To this day, I have not designed a single workout program.
Goodness.
And that just shows nobody's willing to go out there. I mean, 30 minutes.
I know.
I mean,
You see that.
and that's nothing, 30 minutes. To better yourself, why wouldn't you do 30 minutes? To better yourself as a person and for a skill set, And I don't doubt this guy one bit that nobody's ever done it. And that's just saddening. People should be more enthused about being able to get knowledge. You don't have to. Look at the importance of going to school and going to college, and we stress that so much. This is kind of the same thing.
Right.
You have this thing. You have this tool. You need to go to school and learn about it. It's just like everything else in life. And so anyway, just go get training. That's going to be. I'm going to say that like 1,000 times, but go get some more training. Informed dissent. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? Well, if your training is already as good as you want it to be, then you don't need anything. Is your training really ever as good as you want? How do you know that it's as good as you want it to be? All I can say to you is you can always climb a ladder of excellence higher than you are already at. The ladder of excellence never ends. But if you do want to be better and you're not just sitting around waiting for the next Dyno Reflective Combat Carbine video to come out so that you can improve your latest Maul Ninja skills, it means you should just take the information you've already received from the first video or book that you've read to the range and see where your skill level is. That's that's called the baseline, people.
Right.
If you don't have the baseline, you're not going to be able to tell where you've improved or where you need, improvement. So get that baseline established so you can improve on certain areas. Milk the knowledge you already have for all it's worth, and if you get to a point where your training is becoming stagnant, hop back online and order away. That is, by all means, order away by, go get new training. And I don't ever really believe you're going to get to a point where your skills will become stagnant. You can always push yourself a little harder, a little faster, do something a little bit stronger. I just think you can always go a little more without becoming complacent. But if you're hammering the basics and really working to be the weapon, not the tool, then this journey is self-mastery will not soon end. Even when you get to the point you've mastered just the basics, just remember that advanced shootings is just the basics done smoother and faster. So, whether you're a basic shooter or an advanced shooter, you're doing the same thing, except the advanced guy's just doing it a little bit quicker with a little bit more finesse.
Good point.
There's no magic tricks being done by, some of these guys, even though some of them are pretty dang
good. Pretty good, yeah.
Shoot for the stars, you guys. That's like I was saying, be as good as you can possibly get yourself physically, mentally. Just go out there, challenge yourself, push yourself to the edge. I thought I was, I thought I knew a thing or two. And, once you go and take a couple classes from some people, it is a true humbling experience, to realize that, oh, man, I've had it wrong, or there was another way I could have been doing it better this whole time. That's what I take away from these training classes the most, is all the different, of course, at every training class, the students are all from different areas. They have their own look on it. The instructors bring, obviously, a large chunk of it to the class. So everything from the students to the instructors, all that stuff is awesome. And as far as shooting for the stars, keep practicing, keep training. I'm not going to read exactly what we have right here, but just gunfighting is a skill that requires more training, not more information. So again, going back, don't just look up online articles and don't just read books, but actually get out there, put your feet on the firing line, press your gun out towards the target, and pull the trigger. That's what I want from everybody. Now that you can as far as where do I go to get training, that's a good question. In the beginning, I was kind of saying wherever you buy a gun, the local gun shop you buy it from, they usually will have some sort of training, whether it's a basic pistol or basic safety class. That's a good starting point, at least the basics. Most people won't even want, actually most people are more reluctant to take a basic class than the quote unquote advanced class because they don't want to admit that they need basic training.
Right, exactly.
So,
that's what most people are. They're like that. They don't want to take the basic course.
Yep. So, and a lot of training companies will actually have a basic class, but they won't call it a basic firearms class. They'll call it something else, and that's just literally because not as many people will show up for a basic class because we're above that already, right? That's how we're thinking.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not basic. I'm above basic. So if you word it differently, listen to the local gun store clerk. He probably has some good stuff. He or she, they have good stuff of their local area especially. Now you can, in this great country we live in, there are all types of excellent firearm training facilities to go to all over the country. A couple that I'm just going to shout out real quick. First and foremost, Tactical Response out of Camden, Tennessee. They are my personal preference of training, and they are who I've trained with the most recently. Absolute excellent training. They focus on mindset more than anything. Vickers Tactical, that's ran by Larry Vickers. He, I believe, was Army Special Forces for 20 years before he retired and became a instructor. We have Spartan Tactical Training Group. Those guys are good. They're out in Illinois. Costa Ludus. That's Chris Costa's new training group. Ludus actually is Latin for training. Costa, that's his last name, so it's Costa's Training. And if you know Chris Costa, you know Travis Haley, because those are the two guys that started Magpul. Those are the two guys that are in all the Magpul videos that we were talking about. We've seen them. Probably those are the two most popular quote-unquote rock star trainers out there. Those guys make some pretty good money training. So Chris Costa and Travis Haley's company now is called Haley Strategic Partners. You can go ahead, look up any of them online, go to their training classes. Costa's training class is a great class. I've heard Haley's disruptive training is great. I haven't personally been to them, but I would go in a heartbeat. So
there's only one in California that you recommend, and it's the TacFire.
Yeah, TacFire. It's just
they're in Santa Paula.
And in California, yes, there are other ones too. It's just as far as my top 5 type stuff.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I guess and a lot of these other ones that I mentioned, they do traveling classes. So, they might be based somewhere on the East Coast, but maybe 2-3 times a year they'll come out and do, kind of up and down the West Coast for a month or something like that.
Oh, that's good. That's
good.
Yeah.
That way you can kind of get with the different people if traveling is kind of an issue for some people. Like for instance, living in Santa Maria and traveling to Tennessee is an expensive endeavor.
Absolutely.
And then not to mention paying for the training and all that and the ammunition we're using. So it might be a little cheaper to get more local training than having to obviously get an airplane and find places to stay and all that. But when you get to the training, I'm going to tell you, I want to encourage you to embrace camaraderie with the other students. Don't try and show off to them. They're not, chances are they're not going to try and show off to you. They're going to be very like-minded in my experience. And if anything, you guys are going to be patting each other on the back more than trying to show up one another. That's going to be the right way to approach a training class, is with a way, good job attitude instead of I'm better attitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that it'll just be a better experience all around for everybody. And then plus you might, some of the other students might have something to say to you that maybe the instructor left out. You never know who will bring what to the conversation, or, somebody, all it takes is one good question to bring something to light that we never thought about.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Next we have, we're going to get a little bit away from the training stuff. I feel like I feel like I've gotten the point across, you guys, that you should go get some training, all right? So come on into Tactical if you have any questions. We'll set you up. We'll get you on the right path. If you don't want to come in, go online, type in, firearms training, pick one, and go there. Do it. If you don't do it now, you'll never do it. Now's the time.
True.
All right. So we're going to do a little bit of some fun stuff on urban survival.
Does that mean in the city?
In the city. Sorry, guys.
That was too bad, though. You had a set of pipes there.
Oh, man. All right. So urban survival. Part 1, getting home. Okay, so obviously if you're out in the...
Warriors,
come out to play. So you obviously want to get home. I'll just give you an example. Like in my vehicle, I always have a, most people call it a bug out bag, something that has food and water and clothing and X amount of whatever in it. But I keep a bag in my vehicle in case something happens while I'm not at home, which that's a large possibility. And maybe my vehicle can't traverse a terrain or I have to ditch the car. I can put on a backpack, have food, water, clothing, weapons, and all that stuff for a couple days in order to get to my house to where more food and water and protection is. So getting home, just have an extra little bag of something in your car, extra bag of clothes with a couple of Cliff Bars and a bottle of water.
You never know when a zombie attack is going to happen, zombie apocalypse or something.
You just never know. So at the very least, just keep a couple extra bottles of water, a couple Cliff Bars, something easy, some beef jerky, something that stays. And if your car breaks down and you have to sit there for 3 hours, at least you'll have some snacks and water. Or if you have to walk home in an actual urban disaster, you will have food and water, which will be very important by that. Boots, I guess proper footwear, not necessarily boots, but any good footwear. You want it to be a nice footwear with a good sole. Chances are, again, if you're on your foot or if you're not in a vehicle, you're going to be on your feet walking. You don't want to be wearing that old pair of shoes you should have thrown out 5 years ago when you're walking in this type of scenario with like a 50-pound backpack on,
sandals,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your tactic sandals. Mm-hmm. Speaking of a backpack, a pack should be small to medium size. You don't want to go huge with the backpack, but at the same time, you want it to be a happy balance in between things you need, survival equipment, and then also lightweight portability. So don't go too small. Get like a medium size, but don't go too big. You can get, like a Camel Pack makes a good one. Eagle, Blackhawk, to name a few. Condor, all kinds of companies. The problem with large pack is that you will get it filled up and heavy. That's just the nature of man. If we have a big pack, we're going to fill it to the top no matter what. If we get a smaller one, So what I would suggest is get all the things that you're planning to pack up first and figure out what the square inches of it is, and then go buy a pack. Otherwise, you're going to get a big pack, and you'll inevitably fill the thing up. That's just what happens. Trust me, I've done it.
Trust me, he's done it.
Trust me, he's done it. Binoculars, have some binoculars. Rangefinders, have some rangefinders. Rangefinders are good,
Rangefinders.
Basically, it's a laser device that you point it at something and it gives you an instant feedback of the range
distance?
in the distance in between you, point A and point B, basically. So if you're shooting a gun, it's good to know the range. Or if you're just trying to range, okay, if we have to make it 2,000 yards across that field, it's useful to know how far you're going. So when you have to take a break, how far you are once you got there, all that stuff. First aid, huge. Always have first aid. I stress that constantly. I kind of go overboard with first aid. I have it in the vehicle, on my person. I carry a first aid, little tiny first aid kit in my pocket with me at all times. And in the vehicle, if you're on the road a lot, you guys, it will behoove you to have a first aid kit in your car somewhere that you can access from almost any point, any seat in the vehicle, because chances are that if you're on the road a lot, you might come across car accidents. If you're on the road a lot and you're traveling to different firing ranges, you now have brought firearms into the equation. So if people are going to potentially be getting hurt or in accidents, we all know accidents happen. It's going to help to have that medical stuff on hand. And just like the firearm stuff, medical stuff, go get that training, folks.
Absolutely.
Everything isn't just putting pressure on a wound until it stops bleeding. It gets a little more complicated than that. We could talk about all this urban stuff.
Absolutely.
But I just think the moral of the story, the moral of the day is training. Training. Don't be scared to do it. Go ahead and take that step. It's a great step. And once you've taken it, call in and tell us about it. Tell us who you got training from and what you've learned. Matt, with On the Firing Line, signing out. You stay on. We will talk to you next week.